Right, well, it's been a while since I had anything to say about relationships. Sitting on the train, but before the train leaves in about 15 minutes or so. So I have a few minutes to say something. And this will be a short video today. Um, so what should I be talking about? Well, I think that there are a lot of things to say. One of the most important things, I think, is this whole idea about, so I have this idea that says that love is provable. That love is not something that is just an emotion, but it's something where the words and the actions together indicate if it's love. And so love can never be defined only as what you feel or only as what you say. You could say you love someone, but that doesn't really matter. Now there's other people coming on the train, but hopefully that's okay. But what happens is that if you... Okay. That was my big plan, was that sit here by myself. Didn't work. So we'll see if this works out okay. That since I'm closer to the microphone, maybe my voice will drown out everything that everyone else is saying in the background, because I don't feel like having to move to a different part of the train. But anyway, so love is provable, and it is something that you have to make a decision to do. It's actually a conscious will to do that. And so if you say that you love someone and you don't show love, then you don't love the person. Because love is always a decision: how you're going to treat the person, how are you going to respond to the person, how much space and influence you're going to give that person into your own life, how much are you willing to compromise your own level of comfort for the sake of someone else. So love has that sacrificial component. So love is always going to cost you something. Love is usually never easy, and so there's always that cost factor. There is the will factor. I actually have to want to do that. And when someone says and comes to me and says, hey, I don't feel like I love my partner anymore, I'm like, so that means you're unwilling to take care of the person and to help that person in life and to see to their needs, and that's what you're saying. You're saying that you're no longer willing to do that. I'm like, no, I don't have any feelings. Oh, love is not boiled down to just a feeling. You can't just go by what you feel, because it's an act of will. I mean, there are feelings, and how people make me feel about myself and how I feel about myself when I'm in their presence can elicit feelings. So if a person who treats you with respect, a person who treats you with admiration, appreciation, who's present, not this, the telephone and stuff, but is present in the conversation, in the meeting with you, and then all of a sudden, those can be the place where the feelings of love can grow, but it's still not love. The proof of that is that in the Bible it says that God loved the world. It didn't say that he felt all woozy about the world. He loved the world. He saw that the world had a need, so he sent his son Jesus, and Jesus then becomes the proof of God's love. Not a feeling, but an action. An action that was sacrificial, an action that was for the need of the person who was receiving it, more so than the person giving it. So right in there, you're already starting to see that this whole idea of what true love has to be more than just a feeling. And the problem is that feelings can come and go. So today I might feel really pissed at you and feel like I don't want to have anything to do with you. But then that may not be the truth of the whole sum total picture of everything. So you have to understand that if I make my decisions based primarily on my feelings, most of the time I'll probably be making very irrational and very unwise decisions, because people who let themselves be ruled by their feelings tend to be really irrational and unstable. Hate to say that, but that's just the fact. But there's a combination. So you don't want to make decisions without feelings, and that's not what I'm saying is that you're some kind of a cold robot. But what I'm saying is that as we're looking and trying to explore what this thing about love is, and in relationships, then it has to be more than just feelings. So how do you know that someone loves you? Well, that's kind of difficult because so there's this Gary Chapman who says that there are 5 different languages of love, and that the way that you give and receive love might be different from someone else. So you may think that you're being loving, but if that person's love language is different, then they won't be able to receive that love because they receive love in a certain way. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. So I think it's an interesting theory. I think it holds for the most part. So what you need to do is to discover your own love language. What is the way that you show love? What is the way that you receive love? Now, if we can communicate that effectively to people, then people understand that if I want to show you love, this is the way I show you love. So if I want you to know I love you, then I will show you love in the way that you can receive love. Hopefully, I will get love back in the way that I can receive it. Sometimes it's about learning, okay, so when that person does that, it doesn't make me feel like I'm loved, but I understand that's that person's expression of love. So it can be that way too, where I can learn someone else's love code. Because one aspect of love is the ability to communicate, the ability to talk to each other. It's like everyone wants to sit in this part of the train, in the very front of the train. This is really weird today, that there's so many people that want to. Oh, I guess he's the conductor, so I guess he has to be in the front of the train, you know. So, if you want to know about this whole thing about love, then ask yourself a couple of questions. Are you willing to sacrifice your comfort and some of the things you like for the sake of someone else? So if this is really good for someone else, I might be willing to adjust or even to deprive myself of certain comforts and certain things, as opposed to being a very spoiled person who can only have life based on everything being for them. So that's, someone who's selfish, someone who only can understand life from the perspective of everything has to work out for me, is a person who's not ready for a relationship. And if you're that person, if the shoe fits, oh well, put it on, Cinderella. So that's one thing, the ability to sacrifice. The other thing is the desire to want to meet someone else's needs. And there's a sort of tension there. So you don't want to lose yourself. You don't want to be dissolved into this relationship where all of a sudden you're no longer an individual. And that's not the goal. The goal is not for you to dissolve into nothingness. The goal is to find a way that you complement and you work together, that there's space created. And that space is only created by a will. It's only created by your actual decision making that says that I will create the space in which we both can thrive in. So that's how it happens. And if you don't do that, and if you're unwilling to do that, then you're just not ready. So no sacrifice, not willing to value or even value above yourself the needs of someone else. There are things such as your desire to see someone be happy. Like, so when someone's happy around you, do you have to be happy also? Do you need to, if someone else gets appreciated for something or is given a compliment, do you feel like, oh, they didn't say anything about me? It's a warning sign. So love is difficult now when everyone's coming in and stuff. So, these people here in Sweden don't always, everyone's always going to disagree with you about something. So anyway, that was so much for today. I thought I'd have all this time to myself, another 8 minutes. But if you have any questions, please send them in. I love trying to answer the questions that are most pertinent for you. And if you're suspecting that someone truly doesn't love you, then you need to look at their actions. Because actions really do speak louder than words. But when the words and actions go hand in hand, it becomes really strong. And you should be able to, by this point, if you've been dating for a while and you're thinking about moving on to a more serious stage of the relationship, then you need to know if that person is there for you. That's just the way it is. And you need to know if you're there for them. So I have a few minutes, so I can say this. You can't just demand love. You can't just expect love. You have to be willing to give it. And so the same questions you would ask of someone else, you have to ask them of yourself. And you need to maybe have someone else to speak that truth into your life. So someone who's going to tell you the brutal, honest truth about how you truly are. Because most people tend to sugarcoat their own actions. Most people tend to think that they're loving and they're kind and they're not selfish and that they are generous. When in reality, there's a lot of people out there who are not. There's a lot of, I feel that living here in this country, I feel that most people are selfish. And they care mostly about themselves. Or that small, tight group of people whom they approve of, whether it's someone who is related to them or someone who is close to them. And then everyone else they can kind of, crap on. So ask yourself, the thing that you're expecting or you're hoping to receive, do you give that? Are you the kind of person whom people can actually love? So I remember having this friend who was it was like walking around on eggshells around that person, because they were always easily irritated. They were always easily upset about something, constantly complaining when people didn't do things that they thought was important or that they thought was that you should do. Everything was about them from their perspective. And this person could not see anything, any behavior from another person's perspective or just giving someone the benefit of the doubt. And that was really, really difficult to be around that person. It's really difficult to try to love someone like that because everything was always twisted around. It was always just what that person wanted. If you wanted to avoid the fight and you wanted to avoid all the nagging and the person's explosive, dramatic behavior. So that's just something to think about. And that's always, I guess, in any aspect of relationship where you're talking about friendship, where you're talking about how we handle our finances, where you talk about our relationship to things or people, you got to always ask the question to yourself. And you have to allow people to speak the truth to you. And some people out there, some of you are not really that good at that. So what does that have to do with Christian dating, though? Well, the Bible tells us that our love should be for real. It should be honest. And it uses love constantly in the scriptures as a basis for our friendships. It says that you should love one another just as Jesus has loved us. And that the sign that we are his disciples would be the love that the believers would actually manifest between each other. And if that's the case, then love has a very significant function within the life of a believer. Not just romantic love, but love just in a general sense. So from God's perspective, he's expecting us to be loving, kind, generous, showing mercy, giving grace, expecting us to be helpful. These are the Christian virtues that should be manifested in the life of a person who's following Jesus. And what happens is if that becomes your single life, the character of your single life, then it becomes also the character of your relational life. If while you're single, if you're working on being, and I don't mean being a sucker, I don't mean being someone people wipe their feet on, or you're so naive and so everybody in the world can trick you and you just end up with a miserable life. I mean genuine kindness, doing things for other people that's good for them, even if it doesn't benefit you, even if they do not say thank you, even if they do not show you appreciation, even if what they do in life and how they treat you is never connected to how you treat them. See, love doesn't expect anything in return. Never does. And whenever you expect something in return, when you Every week expect appreciation, thanks, gratitude, a little bit of kindness, a break. Because of something you've done for someone, then you automatically know that it was selfish. It wasn't done out of love. Whoa. Just exploded your mind. All right? So that was just a few little quick thoughts. My train's about to leave. It's going to get noisy. So I'm going to say shalom. Questions are really good. And I'll try to put out some more videos. I've been really busy at work a lot lately, so it's been really difficult to find quiet time when I'm not constantly around people. But take care, be blessed, the Lord bless you and keep you safe. And in your ability and desire to create loving relationships around you, may you do it in a way that honors and glorifies Him. Ciao.